to address the entire question of policing in this country. We entire the culture of disregarding the police, the culture of the Inspector General of Police, the Deputy Inspector General of Police, the two Deputy Inspectors General of Police, and the Director of Criminal Investigations. It also amended to remove the security of tenure that these people enjoyed. So at the end of the day, the police are put under the command of whoever has the capacity to appoint the IG, to appoint the deputy IGs, and to appoint the DCI. And you have seen that from that 2014, the appointments of these people have not been on merit. They have been based on a standard that has escaped the comprehension of some of us who pursue detail. It's a mysterious standard. So, in a situation like that, where the police are basically working at the pleasure of the president, the police command is working at the pleasure of the president, that police force can hardly be independent. It's not independent. It can hardly be professional. So I think we need to look at the police issues in slightly more serious manner than we do. Right now, if you go to my county, we have got an AP police station in Busia town, which is right on the border. The other side of the compound opens into Uganda. How safe are those policemen? If you go to Teso Central, which was created simply recently, which was carved out of Teso South, the Teso South group moved away with all the equipment. The officer who sits in Amukura in Teso Central, the police, the AP police, have nothing to use. And then they are respect to police. Those kind of conditions do not create an environment where policing can be considered to be a democratic policing or the policing that is required in a democratic republic like Kenya. So it's my plea to this House that as we look at this motion, which is a good motion, maybe we consider expanding it to cover the totality of the welfare of the police. So that once you have taken care of the individual who is supposed to police us, then you can expect them to keep those standards that we have placed upon them. But if we violate the rights of the police to housing, the rights of the police to fair salaries, the rights of police to other things that we seek to enjoy, the rights to education, to health, working conditions. You find policemen have got no vehicles, or if they have a vehicle, they've got no fuel. They're buying uniforms. They're not supplied with uniforms. When they come on operations, we're having the riots we have, the demonstrations we had in this country recently. I used to look at the policemen, and none of them, there were no rations. Even water, a person is doing very serious work of protecting society. He has to go and buy water. There's no backup. What happens to police rations? What happens to these rations that go for operations? When you look at the budgets, there's a lot of money for operations, there's a lot of money for whatever. Where does that money go? And especially the lower ranks of the police. They go out, they work very hard, they sleep rough. Then they are sometimes paid some small allowances, which again their seniors steal. So I think we need to address the question of policing in Kenya in a more comprehensive and exhaustive manner, beyond what this motion is proposing, and maybe include some of the issues that are in this motion, so that, having expanded this motion, we can comprehensively and conclusively say that we have addressed the question of policing. Otherwise, we shall be like people putting balm on a septic wound. These cameras might turn out to just be a decoration. If they can be turned off without consequences, as it happened in Ojwang's case, we need a legal framework whereby there are consequences for turning off a body cam or a vehicle camera, or things, a dashboard, a dash cam or something like that. We must have a legal framework for addressing those kind of excesses. So I would request that, as I support this motion, I would request that maybe the draft of the motion considers expanding it beyond the presentation of a cultural problem as one that can be fixed with technology, to go and address the underlying problems that are bringing policing into disrepute in this country. It's very disheartening to see a police officer walking in torn shoes. It's very sad. The constable on the beat is the symbol of the republic. That's why it's a police officer who wears the crown on their head. The emblem is worn, they wear on their body, the security officers. The military people, the police, they wear it on their body. On the president, the emblem is placed on the wall. Even Madam Speaker, the emblem for you is on the wall up there, it's not on your body. It's only a police officer. It's only a security officer, a military officer, who wear those things, because security is a major ingredient of a republic. And so if it's a pillar of the republic, how are we treating our security people? How are we treating our security? We have seen in Boni, wherever they are being killed, they are dying. How did we get accountability? Why people would be in a war zone in a light-skinned vehicle that goes over a landmine and they all die? I have a motion in this house, a petition in this house, where more than 400 police officers who were injured in the course of duty have been assessed and cleared for compensation, have for years not been paid. What is happening? When you come to the question of promotion within the ranks and files, those who don't know anybody never get promoted. Promotions have become a preserve of relatives, friends, and the connected. The force is dying, the force is crying, and it is this house which has the tools and the capacity to save the Kenya Police Service, the administration of police, and in general, the entire National Police Service. We are also seeing the incessant fights between the Inspector General of Police and the Commissioner, the Commission, the National Police Service Commission. These are among other things that are again undermining policing in this country. We have now seen two court cases have been filed. Why is it not possible for this house to look into these things and make, if the law is having a lacuna, this house should fix the lacuna. We have got Professor Ojanda here, very seasoned professor of law. They could help us to fix those kind of lacunas so that we can have the intention of the framers of the Constitution, who came up with the National Police Service to oversight the human resource needs of the police, to do so. We also need to look at the question of a police union. The police in this country must be allowed to form a labor union like policemen across the world have, so that their needs can also be addressed in a formal and structured manner. The idea that the police cannot form a union that they can go to when they are in distress is one of the issues that is contributing to the mental illness many policemen are facing today, the suicides, the murders, the desertions, and the lethargy of the work. And almost today, an average policeman in Kenya is a drunkard. Some are even obese. They're supposed to be soldiers, they're obese. Total disorganization in the force. So we need to bring discipline back, but we need to do it comprehensively and look at the culture of policing in this country. And then once we get the police properly...
Senator Majority, what is your point of order?
Madam Speaker, I was really enjoying the submissions by my friend Senator Mutata and learning a thing or two until he uttered the words that the average policeman is a drunkard. Mr. Speaker, I think that's an unfair judgment on our officers. while there is an alcohol problem, which even none other than the Cabinet Secretary for Interior has confirmed, because I've seen occasionally some of them completely inebriated and unable to carry out the responsibility, I think to pass judgment on nearly half the members of that institution is not a fair assessment. Maybe he would have said there's an alcohol problem amongst quite a good number of officers, which needs to be addressed, but I felt that his use of the word on average, that's a bit too strong, Senator Mutata, and I don't think that's a statement of fact, which I want to request if you can kindly omit it and replace it with a more suitable judgment on our officers.
Senator Omtata, unless you have any scientific evidence that the average police person in Kenya is a drunkard, withdraw that. Withdraw that statement.
The word average is not scientific itself. So, but I think the way majority has done it, he has put it in there. I think we should replace my words with what he has just said. I agree fully with
it. It is you to replace your words, not we. Don't bring us into your...
Yeah, so I request the Hansard to adopt I can't get, if I try to repeat and mess it up. He put it so well. He's a poet.
So you are withdrawing and adopting the words of the majority.
I'm withdrawing and adopting the words of the majority leader, the way he put it.
Proceed.
Yeah, so I'm saying that the culture around policing needs to be addressed holistically. This motion is important, but it is trying to put lipstick on a pig, as they put it.
Can you give the senator 1 minute to finalize his lipstick statement?
It does not holistically address the problem. So I think that we ask the move of this motion to look at it, and I've had so many good comments that have come from the members, to see if we can expand this motion to be an entry point for this House to try and address the problem of policing in this country and see how we can assist them, and even ensure that the big budgets that we allocate to the police end up doing the work that the police are supposed to do. That's what I will pray, because when you go to, everywhere you go, you find they are saying they have no fuel, they have nothing, they are stuck. But then we allocate a lot of money to the police. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support the motion with amendments as proposed.
Senator Professor Ojenda.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to contribute to the motion that has been filed before this House by Senator Nyamu. And Mr. Speaker, to start with, I want to state that the National Police Service is created by Article 243 of the Constitution, and the service defines the mode of hiring of the IG, the 2 deputy IGs, and other officers. Mr. Speaker, it cannot be gainsaid that this country reels from a deficit of police in the service, and I am aware, Mr. Speaker, that perhaps it is time, and I hope that it will resolve, that the intention to hire 10,000 police officers in addition to those serving would go a long way in ensuring that the police service delivers to the people of this country. Mr. Speaker, it is therefore clear that the motion that has been brought before the House would only be useful if a comprehensive reform to the police service is undertaken as per the recommendations of the Maraga Task Force. That task force, Mr. Speaker, puts into place recommendations that touch on the conditions of service for the police. It deals with the issues of welfare and deals with several areas that require improvement. And I agree, Mr. Speaker, as Mr. Senator Omtata stated this afternoon, that this motion is a motion in futility if it is not implemented with the incorporation of the various reforms that the Maraga Task Force has recommended. Because you cannot, Mr. Speaker, purport to introduce CCTV monitoring equipment in police without a framework when we know that the operation of those CCTVs, Madam Speaker, depend on the very officers whose welfare ought to be addressed by the proposals in the Maraga Task Force. And therefore, that must be done first. Madam Speaker, the second point that I wish to point to is that in terms of human rights violations, and I must commend the service, what we have in the service now, IG Kanja, the two deputies that assist him in his work, have demonstrated, have revamped the workings of the police force. They have revamped the workings, Madam Speaker, to the extent that we see an improvement in the manner that the police do their work. And that can only be improved, Madam Speaker, if we adopt every piece of recommendation in the Maraga Task Force. But let me move and state, Madam Speaker, that the motion also has failed to address what the provisions of Sections 2 and Section 18 and 19 of the Data Protection Act. The introduction of some of those CCTV images, Madam Speaker, or the installations would be a violation to private rights. So that this motion must incorporate, Madam Speaker, those provisions that preserve rights of individuals. We know, Madam Speaker, and we have addressed several issues on human rights. Human rights are universal. They are rights, Madam Speaker, that are not only erga omnes, but also jus cogens. And I don't need to educate the majority leader on jus cogens. It just means that they are so trite, they must be respected by every nation. And it is, Madam Speaker, irrelevant that an individual does not belong to a state. And that is why when Senator Eddy was commenting on the Treaty for Establishment of the East African Community in 1999, specifically Article 126, that enjoins countries in East Africa to cooperate towards a joint mechanism that would ensure a federation, a monetary union, and finally a federation for East Africa, the 5 stages of our union in East Africa. That treaty, Madam Speaker, is under threat of violation when we see certain violations in the region. It cannot therefore be gainsaid, Madam Speaker, that the violations of human rights that occur in our brother or sister states must be viewed with concern, because we must move towards implementing the treaty. And that is why we must see a working East African Legislative Assembly. I understand, Madam Speaker, that the Assembly is not as functional as it ought to be, and that should be a concern of this House, because the Assembly, some of the members of the Assembly have not received their salaries for several months, Madam Speaker, because some of the countries in East Africa do not contribute their share. For the avoidance of doubt, Madam Speaker, Kenya has consistently contributed her share to the ESC. And Madam Speaker, as we deal with human rights violations in the region, we must be alive to the fact that these issues touch all of us and concern all of us, and we must work a framework of a healthy East Africa and East African states that obey human rights. For the motion, Madam Speaker, let me say this. This motion must be amended to make sense, because you cannot, as you say, Madam Speaker, provide protection to a hungry crowd. The police need better service. The police need a better working environment to be able to deliver to the people of this country. We need more policemen. And aside the litigation that is going on, Madam Speaker, we need policemen to be employed so that these policemen, Madam Speaker, can serve the people of this country, because we are moving to a period where we need even services of these police persons, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Senators, pursuant to my powers under Article 45(2), I wish to direct that we move on to order number 23. Thank you. Honourable Senators, the mover is not around to reply, so we defer the replying to the motion. And as earlier indicated, pursuant to 45.2, I wish to call on order number 23. Thank you.
Oh, I thought.
Order number 23, the Public Finance Management Amendment number 4 Bill, National Assembly Bills number 45 of 2024, second reading.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to move that the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 45 of 2024, be now read a second time. Madam Speaker, this PFM Amendment Bill number 45 of 2024 is a particularly interesting one. This is one of the many bills, Madam Speaker, I have hoped that we'd consider over time. But like I have learned, Madam Speaker, everyone's jobs ends up being no one's job. Many times we say these things, then we leave it, and we assume that somebody will think for us. I cannot remember the number of times while commenting on BPS that almost every senator has made this request that this amendment is about, that the House be granted sufficient time to consider the budget policy statement, that it is not tenable, the 14 days that we are granted within which to listen to the public, make our decisions as committee, compile it, and bring it to the House. In fact, if possible, Madam Speaker, it will make more sense, other than have it compiled by the budget committee, as is a tradition, to have actually the individual committees present their findings individually. You have the chair for ICT come here and give their perspective and their view on the proposed bill. Then you have the chair for health come and explain to us why National Treasury still want to continue hanging on to stipend for community health promoters, as opposed to releasing that money to counties so that governors can pay, Madam Speaker, and so on and so forth. There are many things which I feel, if we had sufficient time to consider the BPS, then the House will be better armed, actually, to respond to the call of interrogating our budget. This bill was published, actually, in the Kenya Gazette Supplement number 190 of 2024, last year, November. It's actually taken almost a year plus in the National Assembly. The principal object of this bill, of course, is to amend Act 412A, which is to extend the time within which Parliament considers and makes recommendation to the BPS, to extend the time within which the CS for Finance complies with the debt management provisions, and to put in place a framework for the implementation of accrual accounting in government. Madam Speaker, the extension of time within which Parliament considers and makes recommendations to the BPS from 14 days to 21 days will allow Parliament sufficient time to carry out public participation, debate, and make cogent recommendations on vital budget document. I need not emphasize, my colleagues, many times you've had each of us say how 14 days is such a short period. Of course, we understand that we work in a very tight fiscal cycle of only 12 months, which many times, Madam Speaker, when we resume at the beginning of the next session, around February of next year, Madam Speaker, it's a fast business that awaits us. And within that time, we have a short time to consider this, send it back to National Treasury, they put it together, then they send the proposed budget to the Assembly, who have to carry out public participation and all those things, especially remembering that in a budget like the one for last year, for next year actually, it's the last budget before the elections, and therefore, Madam Speaker, has a lot of interest. Further to that, Madam Speaker, Clause 2 of this bill proposes to amend Section 25(7) of the PFM Act to provide that Parliament shall not later than 21 days after the BPS is submitted to Parliament table and discuss a report containing its recommendation and pass a resolution to adopt it with or without amendments. The extended time for consideration of statement by Parliament from 14 to 21 days, and to amend Section 25(9) of the Act to provide the National Treasury shall publish and publicize the BPS not later than 22 days after the submission of the statement to Parliament. This extends time for publishing and publication to 21 days. I have explained that. Section 50 of this Act also imposes certain obligations relating to debt management to the Cabinet Secretary for Finance. One, these include, under Section 52, that borrowing by the national government shall not exceed 55% of the gross domestic product in present value terms, under Section 52C, the amendment that we did here at the beginning of this term, Madam Speaker. The debt threshold set out in 52 came into force in 2023. The bill, therefore, to provide a different date for coming into force of this provision. Clause 3 of the bill proposes to delete Section 52C and submit the new session that provide the Cabinet Secretary to ensure that borrowing by the national government complies with the threshold under Section 52A, Madam Speaker. We had a long debate about this, and I believe that the Budget and Finance Committee of this House will actually lead us into making a more reasoned decision on this particular proposal during the Committee of the Whole stage. The Clause 4, Madam Speaker, is to amend Section 194(1) to provide that the Accounting Standards Board shall provide a framework for the implementation of accrual accounting in government, and further the board shall prescribe risk management framework. The bill further proposes to amend 194 by inserting a new subsection 6 to provide for transition period to 3 years to accrual system of accounting in government. There are many people who've been calling for this because it basically means, Madam Speaker, that we shall be spending on reality of what we have as opposed to the current system where we believe and hope that there's some amount that we'll collect, and therefore hoping has gotten us to where we are today, where close to 70% of our collections, Madam Speaker, end up paying debt. Therefore, this is a simple amendment, but with very consequential findings, which I hope that colleagues can find time to debate, share their thoughts about it. I'll be particularly interested by the findings of the Budget and Finance Committee on this matter, so that we know whether indeed they have considered the requests that have been made here, Madam Speaker, and lead us. With those many remarks, Madam Speaker, I beg to move and request Senator Professor Tom Ojienda to second.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I second the motion for the proposed amendments. Madam Speaker, it is clear that timelines are important to the extent, Madam Speaker, that budget policy statements must be debated within a sufficient time, and the proposal to amend the sections in question, Section 25 and other sections, is an important section. Madam Speaker, these amendments will improve the substance of business that this House will undertake, and in the light of the proposed timelines and timeframes as per the proposals, Madam Speaker, I second.
Honourable Senators, I propose the question that the Public Finance Management Amendment number 4 Bill, National Assembly Bills number 45 of 2024 be now read a second time. Senator Mutata.
My lady, Madam Speaker, the Public Finance Management Act is one of the key pieces of legislation in this country. It operationalizes Chapter 12 of the Constitution on public finance. It has many good things, it has many bad things, and I think the budget policy statement, which is the broad, the broad outline of the budget that is made annually, which annually is the broad guideline for the annual budgets, is a very, very important process. And I agree with the mover of the motion and the seconder that this is a very, very important amendment that needs to be done, we need to be given adequate time to interrogate and audit the proposals for the budget, and if possible, be able to ferret out cases of budgetary corruption, which may be padded in the budget, intended distortions of equitable sharing, and stuff like that. So the amendment is extremely important, and I would urge my colleagues in this House to support that amendment, that we be given adequate time to scrutinize the budget proposals. 14 days are inadequate, and as the mover said, the majority leader, within those 14 days, we are supposed to have the committee meet and look at it, maybe, and as it's a parliamentary tradition, subject it to public participation, and then come back, subject it to debate in this House, and then vote on it. That kind of restriction reduces this House to a rubber stamp, whereby we have to decide between having a bad budget or having no budget at all. And that leads to a situation whereby sometimes things that are passed in this House, that when you encounter them later on, you say, how come this thing went through the House unnoticed? So it's a very, very important proposal that we bring that out. In moving the motion, the Honorable Majority Leader made a reference to the budget ceiling in the Public Finance Management Act. Although he mentioned it like something that is good, to me it is something that's unconstitutional. When you look at Article 220 of the Constitution, especially Clause 1, B and C, they address the question of borrowing. And they require that borrowing must be clearly indicated in the budget, with the proposals of how it is going to be repaid, the loans are going to be repaid. When you come to a budget ceiling that says that you are going to borrow 55% of the GDP, it violates that provision, that in every budget, Parliament must set the limits of that borrowing, and it must justify whether there is capacity to repay those loans or not.